During the 1980s, Iraq fought a long and costly war against Iran. So Saddam had to try and rebuild the nation, but faced a series of challenges. He feared an Arabian anti-Iraqi coalition was being formed. He refused to pay back debts to his neighbors and accused Kuwait of side drilling into the Romanian oil field which lay in Iraq. He also accused Kuwait of breaking the oil production quotas implemented by OPEC, and this reduced the price of oil and cost Iraq billions. But Kuwait had long been claimed by Iraq because it was part of the Ottoman province of Basra, and Saddam began threatening military action against Kuwait in 1990s, saying they were acting on behalf of US. The Americans had supported Hussein during his war with Iran, but Iraq had been allied with the Soviet Union during the Cold War and supported the PLO in their fight against Israel. Nevertheless, the Saddam Hussein moved troops near to Kuwait. The Americans held the Jeddah talks with him in July. Kuwait should pay compensation for the use of the Romania oil fields or evacuate only. Offered $9 billion out of the promised $10 billion, Hassan used this as a cause for war and invaded 2 days later. The Iraqi army, which hadn't fully demobilized, was one of the largest in the world, with over 1 million troops, thousands of tanks and hundreds of planes. Kuwait's army of a few thousand can put up much resistance. So in 2 days the country was under Iraqi control. The Kuwaiti government and thousands of refugees fled to Saudi Arabia, while control of Kuwait Iraqi troops then deployed to the Saudi border. So the US on August the 7th launched Operation Desert Shield aircraft carriers, sending in 500,000 troops to send to Saudi Arabia to deter Saddam from attacking and capturing the oil-rich border. So he gave a list of demands, including Israeli withdrawal from Arab land, Iraqi access to the Persian Gulf, and even a favorable trade deal with the US. But the US was unwilling to negotiate, so the UN gave Iraq until mid-January 1991 to pull out of Kuwait or be forced out. President Bush spent this time making a coalition, and this coalition of over 30 nations included Arab states like Saudi Arabia, Qatar and UK, most Western Europe, and even countries like UK and France. The deadline for withdrawal passed, so on January the 17th, Operation Desert Storm was launched. Massive air campaign dropped over 100,000 bombs, destroying a great deal of Iraq's Air Force communication facilities and Scud missile launchers. However, Iraq responded by launching Scud missiles into Israel, hoping Israel would retaliate and declare war. Hoping Hussein would then get the backing of other Arab nations, but the US kept Israel from responding, so Iraq tried to move into Saudi Arabia in late January at the border town of Kafjila. Iraqis were quickly driven out by the coalition army backed by air support, but the coalition waited until mid-February before countering. In the meantime, special forces were sent behind enemy lines to scout out Iraqi troops, while Iraqi scouts were specifically targeted. First, the coalition tanks were far superior to the Iraqi Soviet and locally produced tanks, so they quickly captured Iraq's defensive bunkers on the border, and just before troops moved into Iraq, a huge artillery barrage destroyed over 20 Iraqi artillery battalions then on the attack on Wadi Albert. In this tricked the Iraqis into reinforcing their position in the south. The coalition instead swept through the now relatively undefended desert. But the Iraqis proved incapable of stopping the advance, so Saddam ordered a full retreat, although Marines still had to fight to gain control of the Kuwaiti International Airport. The emir was restored to power, and he quickly began to persecute suspected Iraqi sympathizers. Thus, as the Iraqis retreated, their convoy was heavily bombed, and this road was dubbed the Highway of Death. But the retreating Iraqis did set fire to hundreds of oil wells before signing a ceasefire.